for early access for Patreon supporters, we've got Dudley Dawson from Hogville. Dudley, how you doing, sir?
I'm doing good. Good to see you, bud.
Yeah, same. Always an honor talking with you. Of course, we know you're with Hogville and still doing your thing over there. You're going to cover baseball, and boy, you've got quite the home stretch in front of you. You're not going to have to do a lot of traveling. 17 straight games in Baum, is that right?
18. The longest, I think, since the first year when Dave Van Horn was coaching. As you know, that's been a while. So, but yeah, looking forward to it. I did have a typo the other day. It's not 187 home games. It had 17 and changed to 18. The 7 didn't get out of there, but I love the edit button. 18 home games in a row. So looking forward to that, but did enjoy, being on the road this weekend and seeing them playing down in Arlington.
Yeah. So about that. Oh, by the way, shout out to Patreon supporters. You guys, do appreciate you. This video will go live for the rest of the viewing audience either Friday or Saturday. I haven't quite made up my mind there yet. I might go ahead and release it Friday because we know Arkansas is going to host Eastern Illinois, who is currently undefeated, by the way, 3-0 coming into Baum. I think they have a midweek game. I'm not entirely yeah, they have a midweek game. Almost positive they do. Maybe I'm wrong. I don't know. Whatever. Okay. Well, speaking of your time down there, I kind of went over some of the questions with you already. I did want to ask you, what is your assessment? I know it's early. It's a small sample size. We're talking about 3 games, but did you kind of walk away thinking that's about what I expected to see?
Pretty much. Now, I didn't expect to see really the bashing on Saturday night or the bashing on Sunday. Both of those games got out of hand, and there was, I think, a parallel between the two. The two head coaches, once the game got out of hand, said, "Okay, everybody who I'm not going to pitch, right away, I need to get you in there, get you some innings." Obviously, Arkansas got a lot of freshmen in there. Oklahoma State, got a lot in as well. And the guys were teeing off. I do know that, having been a sports writer for as long as I have, I do know that as soon as Arkansas lost Saturday night, the season was over. And as soon as they won Sunday, the season was back on. So, obviously, everybody overreacts. I do it sometimes too, but not as much as maybe as a lot of fans do because, it's a marathon, as they say, not a sprint. And, you never want to lose a ball game, but boy, they got humbled Saturday night and responded well on Sunday. And I think that's what you wanted to see.
Yeah. I don't know what the bigger surprise is. You never know with these things. You could go 0 for 3 and it's not going to have quite the impact on the season as you think it would have. I think, in fact, there was someone who actually did make the College World Series that went 0 for 3.
They did go 0-3 back in a few years ago at this tournament and went on and got into the College World Series. They went 0-3 this year as well. I don't see them getting to the College World Series this year, but we'll see. I think they're rebuilding a little bit. Had a good effort on the mound the other night against Arkansas, but I'm not sure they have enough hitting up and down the lineup.
Well, Arkansas's bats didn't disappoint. I mean, I think they, what was it, 8, 9, and then like 100 game 1 through 3 just hits, making. And that's not just contact with the bat and the ball. That's actual hits. I thought they hit pretty well. Thought they missed some opportunities defensively in the infield. Thought they kind of, maybe when you consider all the change that they've had, I guess it's kind of to be expected. You got some players moving infield. You got a new guy on third base and Callie. So let's get into the juicy tidbits, the thing that everyone wants to talk about right now, and that's Mr. MVP of the week, Mr. Player of the Week. Arkansas outfielder Jared Wagner, who was dynamite down in Texas this past weekend, going 6 for 11, a double, a triple. Oh yeah, a couple of homers, 8 RBIs in his first 3 games as a Razorback, Dudley.
Yeah, I think, he's obviously one of the transfers. He came from Creighton. It was looking like a beach ball coming up there to him, whereas it was looking like a BB for Caleb Callie and, a couple of other guys, all who I think are going to have really good seasons. But, sometimes you struggle out of the gate And I thought Coach Van Horn, who knows a thing or two about coaching, handled the situation right. He let him get into the second game, and then Pence hit Jason Jones for him, and then kind of made the lineup switch on Sunday. And I think you will see Josenberger, Stovall, Slavens, and Wagner all in a row. I think from here on out to with the top four. So.
That's not a bad order there. It's not a bad order at all.
And then Kendall Diggs batted fifth on Sunday. So,
yeah.
I'm sure we'll talk about Caleb here in a minute, but it just wasn't his weekend. It happens sometimes.
Yeah, and Stovall's a good example of that. I mean, last year I thought Stovall he struggled. I mean, there's no other way to put it. He struggled. And Dave Van Horn kind of tinkered around a little bit and straightened things out. And then Stovall turned it on, right? The end of the season. Maybe that's Cali. Of course, you're talking about a JUCO All-American compared to a kid who's coming in who was, 18 years old or whatever Stovall was. So Arkansas, again, you mentioned the game 2, the TCU blowout. How much of that was Dave Van Horn? And you kind of touched on it already, but was that a lot of it got out of hand because Dave Van Horn was kind of tinkering a little bit with the bullpen?
Well, I think it's a combination. And you mentioned the middle infield, and I thought Bolton and John Bolton, the new shortstop, and Peyton Stovall had a good weekend, but there were a couple of plays in the first inning and in the fifth inning against TCU where they could have turned double plays. They were bang plays. And once they didn't get those, TCU didn't miss. They drove in the runs, whereas Arkansas, had a lot of left on bases, in that first game. Still, it was 4-4 going into the fifth. I think things kind of got out of hand, and just as David Pierce did for Texas along the weekend, and Josh Holliday did for Oklahoma State. Once it got to 10-4, it was time to bring in the young ones, let them get some experience. We could see, I think, really well, Batesville's Gage Wood, not the most comfortable guy in the world when he went out on Saturday night in that situation, bases loaded, TCU threatening and all that. But then he came back Sunday and pumped strikes in there, after getting to a 3-1 count on the first batter. And I think he's going to be, it pains me, being from Newport, to have to say great things about people from Batesville, and I'm joking. But I think he's going to be a really good pitcher for him. I think he's going to be a back of the bullpen guy. Obviously, I think Brady Taggart's going to be the closer unless they move him into a starter's role. We'll see how that plays itself out. But I do think that yes, on Saturday night, once the game was mentally over, if not physically over, Coach Matt Hobbs, the pitching coach, and Dave Van Horn said, "Let's just get these guys some experience," and that's an awfully big stage. So being at home these next 18 games, these guys will get a lot of confidence, and there's some really good arms down there that we got to see during the fall practice and during preseason practice in January and early February. So I know there were some saying, we got sold a bill of goods. He said this pitching was really good. Best staff ever. Number one, he didn't say best staff ever. He said best depth ever.
Yeah.
But I think that these guys are going to slot into roles. You know how it happens. It's happened a few times here over the course of the last decade or so. Kevin Kopps was not a closer when the season started. His magical year.
That's true. That is accurate. Yeah. And game 2, again, that's the game that everyone's going to go back to as far as like trying to throw some shade at the pitching a little bit. I mean, Gage Wood, Austin Ledbetter, Parker Coyle, Dylan Carter, Sean Fitzpatrick, Cooper Dossett, and Ben Bybee. How many of those guys actually had experience pitching in college?
Well, there were 4 that you just named off whose first pitch in a college game was on the mound there at Globe Life Field, by the way. So, and those guys are going to come along again. They got, they had, some of them had a horrified look on their face, but you had to, you got to get them some action sometimes. And yes, it wasn't a blowout game or they helped add to the blowout. But I think it will help them down the line, and they'll be better for it. I do think that people who struggled getting hits this weekend and people who struggled pitching are about to use these 18 straight home games to get their confidence back. So when they head to what is number one LSU right now, the next time, and I believe it's in November. I think the next road game is in November. They, they'll be better served to go onto the mound and take care of business.
Yeah, and I also look at this too. Another angle is as great as it is to have all these home games, and that's less travel. We know that's going to be, it's very convenient for a team like Arkansas. There's also the other side of that where, oh crap, we got to go play on the road. You've gotten so used to playing in front of your home crowd at Baum. Oh man, now we got to go to where and play? We got to go to LSU and take on who could be the best team in college baseball. That could be quite the shock and awe for some of these young pitchers who get an opportunity. Is Zach Morris do you think he's gonna come into the I kind of see him as another possible closer. I know he's got the arm. People think he can go 4 innings, a good middle relief guy. Do you think he ends up becoming a closer, or is he going to be he's going to come in as that number 2 guy behind someone like a Will McIntyre?
I think he's going to do a lot of the same stuff that he did last year, be a utility type pitcher, and then they can pitch him in a lot of different situations. He does have experience. So when games in, and he came in Saturday night and kind of calmed things down a little bit for a while there. The floodgates opened after he left, but he came in and he really struggled during the fall and here early in January during the preseason. But I do think that he bounced back with some good, throwing strikes and some good stuff the other night. It's a step in the right direction. You still would like him to go out and be perfect when he's out there, but it's a step in the right direction. That is one question that is going to be answered, I'm sure, during this home stretch. You obviously, Hagen Smith and Hunter Holland are going to be 2 in the rotation. I thought it was interesting. Holland said, I like being the Sunday guy. Well, you may like being the Sunday guy, but you may be the Saturday guy too. Yeah. And, you figure out what you're going to do is Saturday. Morris would certainly be one of those candidates that you look at maybe to start on that third night, but I think somebody's going to establish themselves as the third guy, whether it's Parker Cole, a freshman, Dylan Carter, Ben Bybee, will get a chance. He's got not a guy who's getting talked about a lot. He'll get a chance because he has a lot of different pitches. Jake Faraday is a guy who, could throw 100 miles an hour. Austin Ledbetter obviously has some experience. I think they like him in that middle role too. But these things are going to play themselves out, just like I said, with Kevin Kopps not being the closer during his fabulous year. We'll just see how it plays itself out. I think the one good thing in terms of pitching that you saw at the back end of the bullpen was, we all know Brady Taggart can be electric at the back of the bullpen, and he can be helpful to the other team at the back of the bullpen. When I think he got tired last year, he was fired up. The team was fired up. They got to see him come back, and he's a little bit different this year. That curveball was magic for a lot of time last year, but it was a pitch that the other team got to sit on every once in a while, and that's why he started giving up some runs, along with tired arm. But he's got 4 to 5 pitches now that he was throwing the other night, and baffling some hitters. And so I think that he has really transformed what he has to go to the mound with, and I think that's different. You can't just sit on one pitch anymore.
He looked like he had, I don't know, that was the most command, and he was great last year. He was a freshman All-American.
A little fired up, wasn't he, too?
Well, yeah, he was.
Did Conor McGregor coming up to me?
I loved every bit of it, man. Yeah. I don't mind a pitcher who talks a little bit. Hog fans always get hostile towards pitchers who do that on the mound when they're in Baum, and I'm like, no, I mean, wouldn't we want the same thing? A little fired up.
Petra, my wife, went down there with us this week, and she got to see the Rock Riggio experience. The guy from Oklahoma State who got people so excited doing his Captain Jack Sparrow antics and stuff last year. But she pointed out that's exactly who you were in high school, and one of the reasons I broke up with you. And so
she hit you with that, huh?
Yeah. It's not the first time she's tossed that out.
My wife told me one of the things she liked about me.
I was a bit of an excitable young man, and the sports I played. And when I did well, I let you know it, and that's why I wasn't that popular in Batesville. Another question.
I've told this story before on my live show, but 6th grade flag football for Jefferson Elementary in Fayetteville.
Always Always proud.
Oh yeah, always. Yeah. One lost season, by the way. We lost a championship game, one lost season. We were great. We had a play called the center pass. Of course, I played center, and I'd snap the ball. I'd act like I'm totally legit, by the way. I'd act like I'm blocking, and then I would just run by the guy, turn around and catch the ball and score. I remember against Root in the playoffs, I turned around and I told him, "Smells like burnt toast." It's my claim to fame in my sports, playing sports growing up. But
I'm sure you reported the referee is eligible, right?
Oh yeah, I was eligible. Yeah, yeah. Why not? It's flag football, right? Kind of anything goes, I guess. Apparently, yeah. We played. That was a play that happened at least twice a game, and I can remember hearing the sidelines going, "Watch for center pass." And one coach made a smart comment. Apparently, it's legal.
Legendary.
What a moment! All the years I played sports, that's one of my favorite things. Pat Jenkins, by the way, was a referee. He reffed one of those games. Anyone who watches On the Hill with Pat Jenkins, he was a official. He was a ref, and he
you
would
forget
ref.
that Pat's almost 75 now. You know.
Say what now?
So you forget that Pat's almost 75 now.
I know it. Yeah, and he's definitely not biased towards Fayetteville at all.
He's either 37 or 75. One of those two.
He's a good guy. All right. Well, moving on here. We kind of already talked about Tigert. We addressed that part, and of course,
Kelly a little bit. I know people watched him struggle. 0 of 8 for the weekend, 7 strikeouts. When he did put the ball in play, it was a ground ball double play. He hit the ball so well unofficially. I think he hit close to 420 during the fall, and then hit well for power and home runs. It just wasn't working for him this weekend. I think he's a really good ball player. He's an older guy. They'll get him calmed down. I don't know if he'll be in, how much he'll be in the lineup as we go along here, because if Jason Jones hits home runs or Kendall Diggs, it'll play itself out. But I think that he's going to be an integral part of this team down the line, and then people shouldn't toss him aside just yet.
Yeah, JUCO All-American was the talk of the town in preseason and in off season. He was talk of the town. I think I read, that people who were going to the game or going to the scrimmages were just blown away by the pop that he has. A lot of potential. I think, who cares what his batting average is? It's one weekend, right?
Yeah, the first 2 or 3 strikeouts, then he started to think about it too much. And you can't, as a baseball player, and a hitter, you can't be in your head up there. You got to see the ball, hit the ball, not think about the ball. Yeah, exactly. I think he will pull. I think he will eventually get it turned around. I again, just based on what I've read and kind of watching him at the plate, I think you could tell he was in his head, and he ended up with 7. He struck out 7 times. But I still think, let's give him some time to develop at the plate. He's got to absorb the level of play now. All of a sudden he's playing in front of these large crowds, and this was a good experience for him. Hopefully he builds off of it. I think he'll end up being okay, but like you said, if he does continue to struggle, we'll see what Dave Van Horn does with that lineup. True or false? Tennessee and Arkansas is becoming a legit SEC baseball rivalry. Absolutely. It didn't even play this weekend, and people were celebrating the fact that people from Tennessee were celebrating the fact that Arkansas lost to TCU, and people from Arkansas were celebrating the fact that Tennessee lost to both the Arizona and the Grand Canyon Antelopes, who were led by Zach Gregory, former Arkansas player. And Tennessee went ahead and won on Sunday. But, yeah, there's a lot of talk that weekend, and the red-white game is that same weekend. Softball's got a big series that weekend, too. That's going to be a heck of a weekend when Tennessee comes to town. And as we know, Coach Van Horn and Coach Vitello, great friends, but, frenemies at times, certainly. That's going to be a lot of fun. It's going to be interesting because Tennessee has a lot of very good players, but they did lose 8 position players. Got a really good pitching staff, didn't get blown out this weekend. I think Gallon gave up 7 runs total in those 3 games. So they're not going away anywhere, but it was interesting in the delight I saw in Tennessee fans and Arkansas fans that the others didn't go, undefeated this weekend.
Yeah. Yeah, I agree.
Didn't hear jack from Oklahoma State fans, though.
No. And that's what's crazy is they want to tell you all about Rock, about how he's owned the Razorbacks. And yet, what's his record? Well, when playing against the Hogs, it's not great. Last I looked, it's not
forever from now on. I told the Patriot that if and when I'm ever, having a few Bud Lights and face plant, that's going to be known as a Rock Riggio, because he drilled that base hit, ran around first. He was ready to do some antics and got so into his antics he fell and face planted, got back up, encouraged his crowd, and told Arkansas to shh.
Yep.
The Arkansas did not shh.
No, they didn't, and it was pretty great moment. Arkansas fans versus Rock. That was kind of the rivalry of the week.
Yeah. And I know they don't like him, and maybe I'll get criticized for saying that, but he's fun for the game. Yeah.
He is. Yeah. He's good for the game, and I would even argue, maybe this is especially the OG baseball fans. They're not going to like this comment. I think Tennessee's good for the SEC. I think Tennessee being good in their antics, and I know they got carried away last year. I don't condone all of what they did, and I know Dave Van Horn certainly doesn't care for those antics in the dugout, but I think it's good for the SEC. I think it's good for LSU to be back. LSU, I mean, me in high school, that's all you ever heard about was how dominant LSU was, and it's good to have LSU back, although, you wish you weren't playing them in Baton Rouge. By the way, for some reason, I had it in my head that was your opener against SEC. It's actually Auburn.
Auburn at home.
Yep. Yeah, 17th of March through the 19th. You mentioned the weekend that is going to be incredible. April 14th, 15th, and 16th. You've got Tennessee coming into town. Who knows where Tennessee and Arkansas will be at that point. I suspect they're both going to be, no matter what their records are, it's going to be a great series. Yeah, April 15th is loaded.
And people have already started. Look, folks, I don't have tickets. I don't buy tickets. I don't have any tickets to Arkansas and Tennessee for you. Those of you who have asked, I'm sorry. Those of you who are thinking about asking, no, I don't have any tickets. ArkansasRazorbacks.com.
There you go.
Retail market,
Or call in one of these radio shows. They're giving away tickets like crazy this morning.
It won't be cheap, but that's going to be fun.
Do you think? Okay, Arkansas, Baum Stadium, Arkansas finishes. I know I didn't discuss this with you before we went live. Do you think the attendance might take a little bit of a hit this year because of the cost and the availability of these tickets?
They certainly are complaining about it enough in social media. Now, here's what I think. If Arkansas's okay, yes. If Arkansas's really, really good, no. I think if you win, people will continue to show up. But yes, it is. It's been a thing, out there on social media. I saw SEC Mike, who's one of the sports writers that covers baseball in SEC. He had a poll about the ticket cost, really the cheapest ticket costs and all that. And Arkansas was way down the list, and of course, people were not going to accept that because they believe that they're getting gypped out of large prices. And I'm not going to tell them they're not, but when you look at it. It's not in the top half of the SEC, and that's where Arkansas is playing wise. So I am not going to tell them they shouldn't be upset, but I will show them facts every once in a while and allow them to make their decision on that.
You're not supposed to do that, You're not supposed to.
Bring logic into this nonsense.
Oh, man, I've had my fair share of people coming after me about stuff like that. Yeah, I'm a little surprised by that. I didn't see that. I thought Arkansas would be kind of right up there at the top in terms of cost.
And as people like to point out, that didn't entail the donations, but it didn't entail the donations at the other places too. There's a lot of schools in the SEC where baseball is very, very popular, and they talk about football, they talk about basketball. Baseball's coming. That's why they're going to get extra assistant coaches. That's why there's going to be more TV deals. And you're bringing in Oklahoma and Texas, too, into the league, not only in football, basketball, and all other sports, but baseball, too. And those teams have been fairly good in baseball as well. It's just I tell you, the one thing I'm ready for is coming up soon, I guess in May, they'll have, if not before, they're going to release the schedule for football for 2024, and it sounds like no divisions, just one big old 16-team league, a couple of traditional opponents or 3 traditional opponents and a 9-game conference season. So there's not going to be too many. I don't want to make anybody mad. There's not going to be any pay for win games, I guess. So
Yeah, I don't know how I feel about that. I like some of the upsets that we've had for these non-P5 matchups. But they are going the way of the dodo. You know, those teams, that sucks for those schools because that makes up so much of their budget.
Absolutely.
And it is unfortunate. I don't know that it's good for college football or not. I mean, I know it's going to be good for television contracts. I know it's going to be good for the SEC network. But
it'll be good for the upper echelon. We have seen a lot of parity here lately in a lot of sports. Now, if that happens, I think it's going to, the people who don't have the money to spend at the bottom are going to drop off a little bit.
Eventually, it's just going to be, it really will be. I think in the next decade, I really think it's going to be, I don't know if it's like SEC, all the schools plus Oklahoma and Texas, and they're going to bring in more. They're not going to stop. Eventually, they're going to bring Clemson, Miami, Florida State, the big dogs of the ACC. And then you're going to have the Big Ten do their thing. And it really could just be the SEC and the Big Ten in the next 10, 15 years.
Is it nuts that the Big Ten is going to have USC and UCLA?
That's so crazy. I just, like, anything's possible. Anything is possible. And then you have the NIL and the transfer portal all in the middle of all this. Oh, my God. College football is just – and I'm not going to lie. I talk, my dad and some of the, older fans, they hate it. They hate it. They hate the idea of it. They want to go back to the old – if it's up to them, they go back to the Southwest Conference. But that ain't happening.
Yeah. Well, I'm old school about a lot of things. It's tough these days. You used to just to be able to go to the SID and talk to a player. Now, pretty much, if you want them to do anything, you got to talk to the SID, the agent, the lawyer, the parents before you can get to the kid.
Yep.
And I realize that helps, in some aspects. But if you've been around here for 100 years, it's different, to work with. So. It's.
My experience, this was the first time ever to go for me, as long as I've been covering the Razorbacks, to actually go to the practice, to be around it. It felt very corporate. And I've worked in corporate. I worked for Sam's Club corporate, very short amount of time, but I did. I was there. It felt corporate. It did. I don't know. Maybe that's, that's just the nature of the game. That's the nature when you get this much money involved and all this stuff. But I keep hearing these old stories about, well, I know when Houston was here, my dad and I would literally walk out onto the practice field and just watch them practice. You lined up on the wall out there.
Absolutely.
And now there ain't no way that's happening. Of course, some of that too is strategy and, and all that, trying to hide what you've got going on behind the fences. I get it, but.
Hey, hold on here just a second. Hey, Fred. You want to take that snoring down a notch or two there, buddy? My dogs
couldn't even hear it.
Dogs are in the office and we love him to death, but he's snoring up a storm.
I can't hear it.
Figured it was coming over.
Well, that's all right. I kind of think I want to do the same. I want to go take a nap. I woke up really early. I haven't had any coffee, and I've still got work cut out for me the rest of the day. All right. Well, that is it. I want to say, first off, thank you to Dudley Dawson for taking time out of your morning. I know you've got a busy day ahead of you. Shout out to Patreon supporters who are given first access to these interviews. We had Blake Lovell on from SEC 14 last week, who was awesome. Dudley Dawson was great. I'm talking to some more people. Hopefully we bring some more people on, do some more of these interviews. And, of course, Patreon supporters will have first access to these, and then they go public several days later. So special shout out to all you guys. Of course, the sponsors, Direct Service Overhead, the Garage Door Company, the Odd Soul, and Apex Tattoos.
Yeah, I noticed since the last time I'm on here that the Odd Soul is up there. So,
you like that?
Love the gentlemen and ladies there in the crowd. It's one of my favorite places, obviously.
Oh, I love the Odd Soul. I know. And I talked to Nick the other day on the phone. And I was like, yeah, I need to come by and get a pie. I feel bad because it's been a little bit since they've come on as a sponsor. I've not actually – well, no, I take that back. The post game for Auburn, I had some pizza, but always good. I haven't had a calzone yet there, and I keep hearing like that's one of the best things I have is the calzone.
Rachel loves them there. I'm a big wings guy. She tries to shove salads in my face when we're there, and they're good too.
Get that green stuff out of my face. I'm here for the cheese and the crust.
Hey, I remember when they first started up, they had popcorn, and then somebody would bring pizza from outside.
Yeah.
Now they're full service. Love it.
Yeah, and the staff, like you said, the staff is great. It's awesome. It's a good time there. Okay, well, until next time, guys, we'll catch you on the flip side. Woo pig.